Hello, welcome back. Well, I wasn't expecting to be doing a second Doctor Who video. I wasn't expecting to do two consecutive Who videos. But don't worry, have no fear. This one won't be 40 minutes long. I'll try and keep this short and sweet. Doctor Who video. Not something I was expecting to do. I did one yesterday, as you may recall, about the return of Billy Piper and Chris Eccleston to Doctor Who in a series of audios for Big Finish, which led me to take a look back at the first season of Doctor Who from 2005. So I thought that was it. That's a bit of Doctor Who content for fans. There'll be stuff coming up in the next month or so with some new physical media releases that I'm looking forward to unboxing and watching. But overnight there's been some developments in the world of Doctor Who. Not factual developments, unfortunately. We've had lots of headlines in newspapers and online facilities like this and this. And I just wanted to talk about them. Now, I can only talk about this from the perspective of a Doctor Who fan who's outside the production. I have no dog in the race, as they say. I have no sources. I have no contacts. I have no information that can disprove any of these news reports that have come out today. And I call them news reports, but they're not. They're rumours, gossip, I don't know how you want to put them. They are reports that started off in The Sun, incidentally. Not the world's biggest BBC fan, and they've been reporting various snippets of possibly scurrilous information from sources that the BBC are going to axe Doctor Who. Ncuti Gatwa has walked away from the show because he's had offers elsewhere. But people who work on the show have been let go. They've been told the Doctor's being arrested for 5 years. And some of them have been told that don't expect any work from Doctor Who for the next 10 years. And this article points out that fans are furious about woke storylines. And ratings have plunged to an all-time low of 2.9 and 3.1. And it's all doom and gloom. Doctor Who is effectively doomed. That's what these reports are saying. It all started off in The Sun. And of course, lots of other online facilities have now picked up on it, just recounting the same sorts of things. The BBC put out a comment just saying, Doctor Who's not been shelved or axed. We are halfway through the deal with Disney. We don't comment on what's happening with actors. We will have news about the future of Doctor Who later in the year after the second season has gone out, which has pretty much been the BBC's perspective for months as far as Doctor Who is concerned. The Disney deal is for 26 episodes, which includes the David Tennant specials, the Unit special that's coming up, the Christmas specials, and 2 8-part Ncuti Gatwa seasons. That's where we are with Doctor Who. That's what's in the can. That's where we're going. So the press and online, of course, have jumped on this. And of course, this is just more fuel for the fire of the idiot fanboys out there, the YouTube clickbaiters, who will doubtless be shrieking, gone woke, gone broke. Hashtag not my doctor, all the usual stuff. They'll be piling on again with the same old stuff. They'll be piling on again with the same old misinformation about ratings and audience appreciation and what's going on, what's not going on. And none of us know exactly what's going on. The point about the ratings, of course, again, I've done videos about this. I don't know how many times it has to be explained to people. The press do it all the time, though. Disastrous ratings, 2.9, 3.1. These were the overnight figures for last season's episodes. Every one of those episodes added 1 million, 1.5 million to those figures. I mean, they're not stellar viewing figures. I'm not sitting here saying Doctor Who's the most popular programme on television, because the viewing figures are what they are. The viewing figures for Doctor Who's the last season were something around the 4.5 to 5 million. The Christmas special, Joy to the World, and I've been told off for calling it Joyless to the World, so I won't do that. Although I thought it was fairly joyless. That had 6.5 million viewers in overnight and 7-day figures, and the total 28-day figure was 6.5 million. They're decent figures by today's standards, and of course, let's not forget that that episode, the Christmas episode, was the 6th most watched programme on British television, terrestrial television, in Christmas week. That's not really a flop. And even the episodes from the last season, which had 4.5, 5 million viewers, they were all, pretty much all, high in the top 10 of the viewing figures each week. And that's what nobody seems to be able to get into their heads, that we're not looking at an era now where Doctor Who can pull in 10 million viewers. Because what else does? Yes, event things like Gavin and Stacey at Christmas, a big series finale that people have waited years for. A new Wallace and Gromit, a huge family entertainment event. They can get 20 million viewers on Christmas Day. Doctor Who can't get that anymore because nothing else does. Very few things do. A few entertainment shows do. Some popular returning dramas can get 5-6 million viewers, but regular shows don't get that anymore. But nobody seems willing to make that comparison, to look at how other shows are doing the ratings. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. When Doctor Who came back in 2005, it was nestled comfortably in the bottom reaches of the top 10, I think. Towering above it, though, Coronation Street, the popular soap. EastEnders, Emmerdale, with 12, 14, 16 million viewers. Casualty, the BBC Saturday night medical drama workhorse show that's been on since 1986. 8, 9, 10 million viewers. And Doctor Who, with its 6, 7 million viewers, would look and think, oh, look at those shows with their huge ratings. Those shows all now rate less than Doctor Who. Casualty on a good week can get 3 million viewers, and that's on 7-day figures. EastEnders rarely gets over 3 million viewers, and that's on 7-day figures. Coronation Street can get 4.5 million viewers. Emmerdale can get 3.5 to 4 million. They're all around that ballpark. And the thing that we notice about those figures is that they're all less than Doctor Who's getting these days. Doctor Who's audience attrition has been steep over the last few years, but not as disastrously steep as it would appear for shows which have always been the cornerstone of British terrestrial television. And I mean the soaps, and I mean Casualty. These shows have seen their audiences fall off in the last few years, and we all know why this has happened. Because of streaming, Amazon, Netflix, Paramount, Disney, all these channels that are offering so many options to people. People watching television no longer have to watch terrestrial television exclusively. There are other options available, and those options are generating a lot of high quality content. People are watching that. Young people aren't as drawn towards terrestrial television. Probably young people rarely watch the BBC or ITV. Those are issues that those broadcasters will have to face and deal with and react to in due course. But the fact is that Doctor Who's viewing figures are steady in the current climate. Yes, they're half of what they were 10 years ago, but then Casualties are 1/10 of what they were 10 years ago. Coronation Streets are 1/6 of what they were 10 years ago. And I haven't done the maths and the statistics, so I can't dole out the exact statistics and percentages, but it's just my observation as somebody who takes an interest in viewing figures. I find it fascinating to look at these things and these numbers and interpret them. But these press reporters don't do that. They go right back to the overnight figures and think, look at that, 2 million viewers, that's disastrous. Context is king in all these situations, and that's what these news reports don't do. So the first point about this stuff that's come out overnight, part of it is based on one erroneous comprehension of data. They don't look at the overall reach, and the BBC themselves have said again and again, overnight figures tell a very small part of the story these days. It's all about reach now. Shows are on the iPlayer and people are constantly dipping into them. I dare say Doctor Who's figures are even higher than this now because people will binge. Once the series is finished, they'll watch the whole lot, or they'll just dip in here and there. It's not about overnights anymore, and I do wish that the press in this country would understand that. Stop quoting these base numbers that don't mean anything other than the people who watched it on the night it was on, or before 2 o'clock the next morning, I think it is. But no, for the purposes of having a go and digging at something, they will quote the least impressive numbers they can possibly find, and those are always going to be the overnights. As far as the rest of it is concerned, we just don't know. They report that they have sources who have told them these things. But yes, these are the same sources who told them a few years ago that Ollie Alexander was going to be the next Doctor after Jodie Whittaker. They told us that Jodie Whittaker wasn't going to have a final episode because the ratings were so poor, they were just going to have a new Doctor. And you can look back over the history of Doctor Who press reporting over the last decade or so and find all sorts of nonsense that has been reported from sources who of course are never named. And I'm not saying that all these rumours are false. There are occasionally times when they get something right. I can't off the top of my head think of anything at the moment, but there are occasions when they'll find out something from some source or other. Those sources tend to be the forums, the Doctor Who forums like Gallifrey Base, where you get more informed opinion and more informed discourse sometimes about Doctor Who. You'll get people who have genuine information. But a lot of this that we've heard today is rumour, but it's been spread by the newspapers from people possibly with an axe to grind. I mean, it could be that they're being fed this information from online trolls, YouTube trolls. That wouldn't surprise me. it's entirely possible that one of several people I can think of, I'm not going to name these people, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you will probably have seen the shit that they spew out on YouTube. They may well have contacted newspapers and said, "No, Doctor Who's being cancelled, Doctor Who's being axed because the ratings are bad and it's too woke and everybody's being sacked." That's the sort of thing that a certain mindset of moronic fans would do, feeding the press their vitriol, and the press will spin it out into a story because it's clickbait for their websites. It's stuff they can fill their newspapers with. We don't know where this has come from, and that's the main issue here. We don't know where this stuff has come from because there are sources, and those sources could be YouTube idiots. The only other point I will make about this, I think, is regarding the issues about Ncuti Gatwa. Now, this is very interesting, and I think I've talked about this before. The rumour that Ncuti Gatwa has left the show. And again, I don't know. He may well have signed up for 10 seasons, I don't know. But I think he may well have finished working on Doctor Who. I get a vibe that this is a young actor, well, 32, it's young compared to me. This is a young actor whose career is just sort of taking off, and he signed up for this huge TV series in Britain with a view to it being rolled out on Disney as this massive show that will launch him into the world, and that doesn't seem to have happened quite like that for various reasons. And having filmed 2 seasons pretty much back to back, he was probably signed up for 3, and with no sign of the 3rd going into production, because we're told that the next season will go into production if and when Disney decide to renew their contract. If they don't, I suspect that the BBC and Bad Wolf will find new funding. They'll fund it themselves, they'll downsize it a little bit. But Ncuti Gatwa as an actor, is he going to sit twiddling his thumbs, waiting for the call to get back to the TARDIS? He's a working actor whose career is on the up. He's not going to want to hang around. The stories are that he's been offered certain jobs in America. He's going to relocate to Los Angeles. I can believe that. I can believe that he would be frustrated by having signed up for the standard, I would imagine, for Doctor Who, 3-year contract, after the 2nd series to be sort of sitting waiting. Well, the way things are, even if there is a 3rd series from Disney, or distributed by Disney, made by Bad Wolf and the BBC, it could be another 6 to 8 months before it starts filming, which will mean that it will have been something like 15, nearly 18 months since the 2nd series started filming, because they did the 2 together. And I can imagine that for an actor who hoped that this show would send him into the stratosphere, might be aware of the fact that it hasn't been incredibly well received at home. As I said, the figures are okay, but it hasn't done what it did in 2005. And I think possibly Russell T Davies coming back to the show perhaps naively thought, yes, darlings, I can do my magic again, and this will be huge, and this will, as it did in 2005, fight against the tide of current viewing habits and get 8 million viewers, 9 million viewers. Whether he thought that, I can't imagine that he did, because he's pretty switched on. He knows how TV works. He knows how ratings work. Although he did make that comment at the end of the last season that ratings haven't been great. But I think the point was also made that it brought in a demographic that the BBC are keen to get of young people who don't watch a lot of the BBC. So I think it's not just about numbers, it's about demographics, age ranges, reach, all these things. But I think Ncuti Gatwa as a working actor would want to get on with doing that work. And with Doctor Who having not exactly exploded for him, and with a delay of another year or 6 months or whatever, he may well have thought, I don't want to hang around. I need to do other work. And if he's getting offers in America, then you can't blame him for negotiating his way out of his contract. There was a rumour last week that he bought himself out of his contract. Now, again, no idea if he could do that, if it's been done, if he's left, if he's quit. I just don't know. I don't know the truth of any of this. I'm just like you. I read this stuff, I think about it, and then I talk about it. What concerns me is that some people will read this stuff and take it as fact. Doctor Who's axed. Ncuti Gatwa's gone. They're not making Doctor Who anymore. And people will think that because people, understandably, if you're not a hardcore fan or somebody who studies this stuff, you read something online, you read something in the newspaper, and we see it again and again on Facebook. People see something, they take it at face value, they don't think about it. Why should they? They're members of the public, they read something about a TV programme they're aware of, and they think, oh, that's finished now, Doctor Who's dead. And that can do damage as well, because that makes people think, well, what's the point in watching the next series of Doctor Who, because it's the last series of Doctor Who. So, it's all been a bit rambly, I apologise for that, but this is all stuff I've just been thinking about this morning. The upshot is that I don't think Doctor Who's been cancelled. it's so important to the BBC. In the last month or so, there was a report about the BBC moving forward in terms of licensing fees, and so the license fee is up for renewal in 2027, I think it is. And there's a lot of talk about BBC funding and if the license fee will return or if there's going to be subscriptions or whatever. And they did specifically mention in this report that Doctor Who is one of their protected brands, that it's important that Doctor Who has a secure funding model. At the moment, that's Disney. If Disney next month or after the next series say, thanks very much, but we don't want any more, BBC will find another way to fund it. Whether Bad Wolf will do it themselves with BBC input, whether Amazon will jump on board, Netflix. Doctor Who is an interesting property in that it's, despite what Russell T Davies said, I don't think it ever had the potential to have that Marvel, Star Wars reach, because they are big international properties that have no cultural boundaries. I think Doctor Who is very British and is a very particular style, and I don't think it's ever anything that's going to be the biggest thing in the world. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it to be, because the biggest thing in the world eventually isn't the biggest thing in the world anymore. So there will be funding for Doctor Who somewhere. Whether the BBC look at the show and think, well, it's had 20 years, let's give it a rest, let's press pause for a while. There's all things going on, because BBC have lots of things to take into consideration. But I think the main things that we must bear in mind is it's an important show to the BBC. If they pause it won't be for long, because they don't want to lose what it makes them. It makes the BBC a lot of money in terms of merchandise and sales and all sorts of stuff. It's a bit of a cash cow. And it's a prestige show because it's well known, it's well loved, and I think it was described as one of their super brands a few years ago. And I think it's a show that it'll be hard to kill off. All I can say about this is, if you come across this stuff tonight, online, please step back, take it with a pinch of salt, because at the end of the day, the only factual element of this report is the BBC's statement in response. Everything else is just conjecture, rumour, lies, and hearsay, and misinformation and misinterpretation of information. And I think that if you are reading this stuff, you need to be aware of that. And the newspapers have their own agenda, and truth sometimes isn't part of it. So thank you for watching. I hope you will have got something out of this video. As I said, I've not scripted anything or written anything down on my notes. It was just, having read this stuff, I thought, well, I feel I need to say something, because I've always commented on the ratings, and I know that this video will probably be bombarded with idiots shouting about Doctor Who RIP, go woke, go broke, and all those things that we're all so tired of hearing. So I will be moderating comments on this particular video. If you've got something intelligent and constructive to say, you will see your comments on the video. If you just post crap, then I'll just delete it. So if you're thinking of posting something along those lines, just don't bother, because nobody's ever going to see it. Unfortunately, that's the way it often has to be with Doctor Who content online. So I hope this video has been of some interest and put some sort of perspective on what we've been hearing today, because all we've heard today, as I've said, are rumours. And the only factual bit of this is BBC's response that Doctor Who's not being shelved. They may be hiding things, they may not want to give out certain information, and why should they? It's their show, they manage it their way. And we'd all love them to come out and say, no, we're going to renew Doctor Who for 5 years. Ncuti Gatwa's doing another 5 years. But that's not the way the TV industry works. The TV industry plays its cards pretty close to its chest. And there's no reason why Doctor Who shouldn't do that. So if you read this stuff online, or if you've picked up a newspaper that's spouting all this stuff, just remember, it's all unverified. It's all gossip and rumour at the moment. And we will know what we need to know when we know it, and when it's announced. So I hope you've got something from this video. If you have, and if you've just come across this channel, why not like and subscribe? Press that button. The subscribe button is there. Press the like button, leave a comment. It would be nice to hear what you think about all this. But as I said, please keep it adult if you can. Right, thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.